Hello, Taranjeet. How are you? Hello, everybody. Good evening. Welcome to Elephant in the Room. I know it's a holiday today. Happy Labor Day, everybody. Happy Labor Day. We are so thankful for you to join us. And like usual, please do comment on the comment below where you're watching this from. Say hi to everybody, and also like and share our page as well as this stream. Your opening remarks, Taranjeet?
Sure. Thank you very much, Wihan. It's always good. It is indeed the Labor Day, first day of the month. We have a lot to be thankful for in terms of the rates of infections going down. Great announcement by the Prime Minister today. MCO is being uplifted effective Monday, which is great, but we need to be careful. We need to take care, and we have to continue to stay safe with each other. But coming back to what we have, we've got a super duper program planned out. We've got a special guest, another special guest coming in to join us. And we're going to be talking a little bit about what's happening in the academic space, specifically in the tertiary area. Muihan?
Cool. So as we were sharing in our last two shows as well as in all our publicity, today we are very fortunate to actually host Professor Dr. Vinitha Guptan, which is the Deputy Vice Chancellor of Saito University College, to actually be with us to talk about COVID-19 impact on the higher education sector. So maybe I will get Taranjeet to do the quick introduction of Dr. Vinitha, and we will get her to come in straight away.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So I think one of the key contributors is what we've heard from Param Sivalingam as well as from Sushil yesterday and the day before. A key contributor to the employment pool would be the academic come the education sector. It's an area where not only are we grooming our talents for the future of the nation, but it's also us ensuring that we have the appropriate capabilities and the capacity as a nation to take this forward. It is also a massive revenue earner in terms of contribution to the GDP, and also from a perspective of us talking about foreign income, because we do have, as Malaysia has been a key center of excellence in the academic side, a center of excellence for foreign students to come here into Malaysia, whether it be from Kazakhstan or whether it be from other parts of Central Asia and the likes. So the question now that is before us today is, what is the impact that COVID-19 and the MCO specifically will have on our academic higher institutions of learning as well as our students? Now, to help us address this, we have great delight in having Dr. Vinitha Guptan with us today. She is the Deputy Vice Chancellor of Saito University College. She was prior to that 13 years as a Dean of the Business School out of Taylor's University. And she's played an active role in Southeast Asia as a whole in a variety of international, national, and community-based projects. She's the recipient of the prestigious Women Leadership Achievement Award, and also with that tremendous humanitarian awards that has been offered to her as well. I've had the absolute pleasure of working with Dr. Vinitha as a fellow board member on the CMI regional board, that is the Chartered Management Institute. And it's absolutely delightful to have Doctor here with us today. Dr. Vinitha, welcome to Elephant in the Room.
Thank you, Taranjeet. Thank you, Muihan. That was such a powerful introduction. I could not have done it better. Thanks, Taranjeet. It's a pleasure being on this show.
It's my pleasure. It's my pleasure. So in fact, thank you for making the time, that too on a holiday as well, and prying you away from your family in this regard. So let's start this off, Doc. How do you see the education space, specifically the institutes of higher learning, being impacted by COVID-19 and by MCO most specifically? What are your thoughts on that, Doctor?
So this is a good one to start with, Taranjeet. You know, the last couple of weeks have been quite exciting, challenging. we've all had to reboot and restart on all fronts. Education as we know it will no longer exist, so with that in mind, it is actually very difficult for us to predict with precision what remains. So let me address your question using a variety of dimensions. As you have said, education contributes largely to our economy. And last year, the education sector contributed about 17 billion to our country's economy. And let's not forget the multiplier effects of the economy on the economy, right? So in terms of student population, so that you understand how big it is, right? We have about 1.3 million students, and in that mix, we have maybe about 200,000, 175 maybe to 200,000 international students, right? And every year we churn out about 250,000 graduates. Wow. So the last few weeks we have seen a lot of scrambling, a lot of improvisation at the governmental administration level. And some decisions, I must say, were made it could have been made with better clarity and planning, because ad hoc decisions actually have a domino effect. So I'd like to probably give you an idea of the landscape on 3 areas with the MCO. One, we all had to close operations. We had to defer our intakes, move our exams, delay semesters, and find alternative ways of reaching our students. And this has caused a ripple effect, and this will continue for the future. Secondly, we all had to convert teaching and learning to digital learning. So what's important is, remember, most of us are not pedagogically trained to deliver quality teaching online. So it is not just about uploading notes or nice videos, right? This process, I must say, has laid bare the digital divide between institutions and also between students. So some of the institutions that I know are planning to wind up because they cannot cope with the investments that are required to provide quality digital learning. Students, on the other hand, some of them have chosen to defer the semesters. Some have chosen to drop from studying because they don't have the proper device, they don't have proper connectivity. So these are things that we really need to focus on. And thirdly, when students come to university, we are also looking at students in our accommodations, right? So we have to look after their well-being. And when parents send students to university, the expectation is that the university would look after their child. So the last couple of weeks, many institutions had to deal with keeping the students fed. We had to deal with greater issues like mental health issues, and so on and so forth. So maybe I thought if I start off with just putting this in context, it would help our discussion further. So over to you.
Good. Thank you, Dr. Vinitha. So for those who have just joined us, maybe I just want to do a quick recap. Today, elephant in the room, we are very fortunate to have with us Professor Dr. Vinitha Guptan, who is the Deputy Vice Chancellor of Saito University College. And she is with us here to discuss about COVID-19 and as well as MCO's impact towards the tertiary education sector, higher education sector. But before I continue, I thought I wanted to do a bit of shout out a few. So first we have Mr. Zorab. Thanks for joining us again. Nice to see you. Hi, Zorab. Hi, Dr. Michael from Singapore. And I think, Dr. Vin, this is your student, Evelyn Lin. She came in to support you, right? I think also Fatima American.
Fatima is my mentor.
Okay, cool. As well as we have Ranjit Gribble, Ranjit from Malacca, and he says, Dr. Jaswan says hi in that sense. And then this is, I think, your ex-staff from Taylor University, Ratneswari, right?
Oh, yes.
Okay.
Thank you for joining.
So cool. With that background instead, I just wanted to maybe also look upon this perspective with all these challenges that is coming towards the tertiary education sector per se, and the impact towards how you all run and things like that. And you rightly say, if we don't have the tech to support, then probably it's no longer viable to be in this business. But maybe on the student front, maybe you can also give a perspective of how is this impacting the students, especially those who are already in their program, you know? So you talk about deferment of intakes and things like that, but what about those who are already, and more so those who are graduating soon? I think that is the key one that I wanted to know. Your thoughts on that, Doctor?
So thanks, Muihan. You know, being a student is probably the best time of our lives. And I think university life, as we all know it, was really, really fantastic. And it wasn't all about the lectures or the cute tutors. It was really about making you a true person. You know, the social connections, the meaningful conversations, spotting activities, working part-time, bunking classes, you know, all sorts of things. But I think the challenge here is, how do we now recreate these experiences digitally, right? So the question that we really have to answer is, how do we move the needle from just teaching online to connecting with the student? So we've all moved our campuses to the cloud. So well and good. So the problem that we really have to focus on is, we need to understand there are differences in environment for students, their access, their devices, the kind of support that we actually can give them. So these are all things that within a short time, many institutions could not cope with, right? And truly, I must say, this is an uneven playing field, especially for students from rural Malaysia and the marginalized communities. You know, the issue of digital divide has not really been addressed. So we lack infrastructure. While we say that, you know, students in the system, you don't have to come back to campus, but we need to reach out to you. So the idea is, how do we reach every student and not leave any student behind? It is about, how do I now speak to you as I would speak to you in a classroom and understand your emotions and the problems that you are facing? Can I actually do that digitally? You know, so I think this would affect a lot of people and a lot of students in the system.
So that begs, and that's very interesting, Doc. And if you remember, about 2 or 3 weeks ago, we had this very discussion sitting on the CMI board talking about the infrastructure requirements. Allow me to take this to the next level. What are the areas that are being provided in terms of clarity from the powers that be as to how academic institutions should manage this uncertainty that students are playing out? Is there clarity coming out? And that's a big question. And I don't want to put you on the spot, but I think it's worth looking at. Is there sufficient clarity to allow institutions like yourself to perform in the way that you need to?
So I started off, Taranjeet, speaking on, you know, how better decisions, how macro level decisions need to be thought through, so that we don't have to suffer the ripple effects of such a decision. So I think all universities have taken it upon themselves to serve the students as best as they can. And to answer your question, I really wish we get more thought through decisions and policies from the authorities.
The powers that be. Absolutely. Okay.
So thank you for that. I just wanted to, I cognizant of time, wanted to quickly follow up, which is a very, very important subject, very passionate for me, because as I was sharing with you, last 24 months I've been championing this graduate employability space. And of all the work, then suddenly come COVID-19. So I really feel for our graduating students, or even though in their final year or third year, because of internship, because I know from the moment COVID-19 started or MCO started, all internship were cancelled from what I understand from a few universities. So maybe wanted to get your perspective on employability and internship in this troubling time. In current period as well as in moving forward in the next 6 months. Maybe your thoughts on that, Doc?
Muihan, I think, the pandemic has changed our perspectives and forced us to think very differently. I want to bring this back to the home front a little bit. I think in terms of partnerships and industry internships, the industries that we work with have been extremely supportive. And I must say that some of our students have continued their efforts and their projects through work from home. They've all worked from home. But what I really want to highlight is the successful experience that we have had in terms of e-mentoring and e-coaching. Employers and students are now forced to be very clear in giving instructions and in feedback. I personally see better written communications, meetings are recorded so people can view how they have presented themselves. I also see better crafted projects with very, very clear deliverables, and there are project check-ins and there's intended outcomes. So this is very different from what I spoke about online learning and having broad-based instructions. Internship is slightly different. So what we have found out is that the check-ins are done with the internship supervisor, the academic mentor, and the student connecting. And they actually connect and speak about things differently, right? So it is not about broad-based broadcast. It is really about sitting down and saying, this is what I like about your project. This is something that you can do better. So actually this COVID has made me realize that virtual internships is actually quite good if we structure it properly. It has given us an opportunity for our students to do internships globally. So now they can do a project from Japan or from Hong Kong without even going there. And I think that's how the world is going to change. So we really need to be able to outline this, to be very clear what we want and what kind of expectation we have from our students, right?
Good, very good, very good. In the interest of time, Muihan, we have a couple of questions being flagged out. And this is one from Dr. Michael Heng from Singapore. Online deliveries may not be suitable for every subject. Innovate a virtual classroom to facilitate discourse. And this is something that you just pointed out as well. For some it is, for some it isn't. How do we ensure that there is an adequate balance in this regard? Especially the next question Michael talked about here is the evaluation and testing methods. We can't have students sitting next to each other like what we had yesterday. Now, moving forward tomorrow, there needs to be at least 6-7 feet in space. How is this going to play out for the future, Doctor?
So this is where the academics and instructional designers really play a big role. So if we craft projects, and if we look at it in terms of students' ability, and I think the machine learning is now very intelligent. We have softwares that can link learning outcomes to student performance. The short answer to you, Dr. Michael, is in order for us to come up with a very robust assessment or a project for a student, it requires collaborative effort from various institutions, not just within an institution. So we could start sharing, and education that no longer is very territorial. So it becomes good for all.
Nice. Can I also ask? And I noticed one of the questions were asked by Ranjit out of Malacca, and I think she's talking on behalf of Dr. Jaswan. Now he raised a very interesting point. In the medical fraternity, we need to have these clinical examinations that are ongoing and what have you. And you've got a bunch of guys walking after the senior lecturer, and as they go for ward rounds. And I know you're not a medical doctor, but I would imagine these sort of practices will need to change as well, or won't they, Doc?
So they will need to change. I think the bedside, whatever they learn at the bedside, I don't know what it is called really. Maybe that has to go on, but I don't think we now need 20 people following a senior professor. This can be done virtually. So now there is an opportunity for us to follow a professor in Harvard or in Wharton, So I think if we really sit back and refocus, what we have been doing, the same old, has to change.
Very nice. And I totally agree with you. One of the comments raised yesterday by Sushil Singh out of Singapore, as he was talking about technology and how this impacted, is the whole space around collaboration in the true sense of the word. And it's not just doing it for the sake of doing it, but being genuinely vested in the success of the other. I'm going to stop there and I'm going to pass it off to Muihan. We are towards the end of the program. Muihan, back to you.
Yes, well, we can stretch it slightly more. I wanted just to flesh out what Zorab had put down here, which I think was very interesting. I will just put it up first, right? So Zorab said with the current, this is the movement control conditions going forward, can an institution of higher learning rent and open up centers of learning at all towns instead to enable students who are in rural areas without access to digital platform coming into space and ensuring no one is left behind? So this is, of course, with all the social distancing sanitization in place and also partner other spaces like for blended provision. So I think Zorab is trying to talk about, since today's announcement by Prime Minister, the conditional movement control order. Moving forward, can now institution partner with, because we got a lot of this space out there anyway, whether you can now ensure that rather than you all come back to campus, can now campus operate on a satellite basis, and this satellite basis is not even your own building, your own facility. As long as they observe the sanitization or the social distancing requirement, can then they be operated in so many towns, especially in the rural places? I think that's where I'm trying to get at, if I understand Zorab correctly. Maybe your thoughts on that, Doctor?
So Zorab is absolutely spot on. So I think most institutions are already thinking of remote learning, of taking education to the student rather than the student coming to Kuala Lumpur to study. We can go out, and so when we reach students in places like Kapit or somewhere where accessibility and connectivity is low, we can work with partners, strategic partners. There are various ways to deliver education. everything doesn't have to be online with super fast internet. So we could actually give them a learning pack. So we cannot lose sight of the destination, right? The idea is nobody is left behind. So we need to be very clear how we deliver the content. So we cannot be so hung up on digital learning all the time.
Cool.
Very true.
So we are really out of time. And I think before I get Taranjeet to do the quick recap, I noticed, I think, Taranjeet, you have somebody from...
Yes, we have Bilkis out in Kazakhstan. Bilkis, a very warm hello from warm Malaysia. We're looking forward to having you back. Yes, welcome. Thank you for joining us all the way from Astana. So yeah, shall I go on the recap, Muihan?
Yes, please do.
Okay, so I think first thing, thank you, Dr. Vinitha Guptan, for joining us. It's indeed a pleasure and an honor, and I think we need to call you back. There's just so many questions we have, and we would love to be enlightened in this regard. And this is something that impacts all of us as not only students, but parents and employers alike. So allow me a couple of minutes to just go through the process that we've had today. We've heard about the landscape from yourself, Doctor. We've heard about the impact that MCO has provided and made to all those students, over 1 million students that we've had and we have in the system. And it's a shame that you have some students who feel that they do not want to continue or to defer simply because of the lack of apparatus or the lack of equipment. That should never be the case, especially given where we are in our state of nationhood and the development that we are going through. And you're right, the digital divide is there. What can we do to lessen this? And something like this makes it even more apparent than before. The second thing that comes across, Doc, is the ability now to be agile. Let's think in an agile fashion. Let's now redo some of the thought processes that we have here to make sure that it's not the student coming across, but it's us going to the students in a way which makes total sense for the student. The third one that comes across now is the fact that, you know what, we no longer need to follow these senior lecturers or the senior doctors as they go on their medical rounds. Maybe we don't even have to be following them in this university. We could perhaps be looking at other universities, and that leads on to the area of collaboration and possible workarounds. And it's all about how exciting and how frontier pushing we want to do this, because the sky is the limit, if you ask me, and we don't want to be bogged down by limitations that we self-create or we self-impose on ourselves. These are the couple of takeaways for me, Muihan and Doctor. Muihan, back to you.
Thank you. So before we end the show, because maybe you can see over my phone, I was running a watch party. I just wanted to maybe do a shout out to a few friends who've been supporting. Thank you, Daniel Kok. Thank you, Mangi, my two friends from Eddie Yao. Thanks, Stanley as well. My mom is also watching. Wow. Okay. Right. Hi, mom. And,
hello, Auntie.
of course, wanted to have a shout out to Encik Tuan Zaid Mama Asni from UNISA, all the way from Terengganu. So thank you for tuning in and thank you for your support. So we have come to the end of the show, and thank you so much, Dr. Vinitha. We really appreciate and to share with us. And I think as a nation, we really need to work together, especially for the next generation, which is very, very, very critical in that sense. So with that in mind, I would just want to thank everybody for tuning in. To our Muslim friends, Selamat berbuka puasa. Have a good Ramadan month, as well as to the rest. Please stay safe. I know come Monday, most of you will be going back to work, but still stay safe, do social distancing, and hopefully we will recover as soon as possible. Thank you, guys. See you.
Definitely.
Thank you. Bye. Bye.